Hello and welcome to Dugout Debrief. I'm your host, Chris DeLuca. This is Boom Broadcasting's one, first, and only baseball-centric podcast. I'm just going to do different hand signals every single time we start this show, but we have a lot to cover. There was a lot of news considering it's the end of January. Normally, there's a lot less news, but there's a lot to cover this week, strangely enough. We still have a marquee free agent who has not found a home yet. Polar Bear himself, Pete Alonso, has still not signed as of Wednesday night. I'm kind of surprised, but also not at the same time because Boras guys always take forever, but also most Boras guys this year have signed really quickly. So like Walker Buehler signed really quickly. Max Fried signed really quickly, but whatever. Pete Alonso may find a home by the next episode. I was talking about that in Out of Pocket, hoping to see that. But yeah, we're doing our NL Central breakdowns part 2. Today we'll be covering the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll also be covering the Chicago Cubs. So that being said, we're going to go dive into the news here. At MLB The Show, they came out with our cover athletes, plural, S at the end. And I think that's the first time they've actually had multiple athletes. But if I got that wrong, quote me in the comments here. They announced that Elly De La Cruz, Paul Skeens, and Gunnar Henderson are the covers. All three young stars, fantastic. Elly De La Cruz, we talked about him last program. I think he's fantastic. He is going to be a great face of the game. All he needs to do is cut down in the strikeouts. His swag, his plate appearances. I won't say plate appearance. Let's say his posture, actually. His plate posture on the base path, everything. He's great. Gunnar Henderson, power hitter off that third base. Really, really good. Overall, all tools of the game, and he's continuing to improve, and he's on a really young team that's hopefully going to do something. We've already talked about them. And then finally, Paul Skeens, great pitcher, electric pitcher. Arguably, if he stays healthy, he will be the best pitcher of this generation at this rate. Dating Livy Dunn, all that. Guy's got it going for him up there in the Berg. So with that being said, those three guys are the MLB The Show covers. And I'm just going to talk about MLB The Show a little bit here. And I really hope that they follow the College Football 25 route because I kind of feel like Road to the Show. I almost said Road to Glory there. As you can see, I've been playing a lot of College Football 25. By the way, I got my guy up to a 96 as a junior. I'm on Ole Miss. I transferred from FAU, but I'm a quarterback. So, those skill points, they come a little bit easier there. So you can call it cheating if you want. But anyway, I think that Road to the Show and Franchise Mode desperately need some updates. Road to the Show needs some personality to it. It's just you play a game, manager comes up to you, or coach comes up to you, train. You have like a practice with the player. It's dumb. It gets really repetitive. I could never make it past like 8 years. I also think that they need to make realistic contracts with that. There is no reason why you should break the home run record in your rookie year and then get offered like a little bit above minimum wage. I think it's kind of ridiculous. And then when it comes to franchise mode, just add international signings. How does that not exist? Realistic free agency signings. I saw this one thing where they had like the Cincinnati Reds or Kansas City Royals signing Juan Soto for like $100 million less than he got. So that's ridiculous. And international signings, that's the way we got guys like Sasaki, the way we got guys like Ohtani and pretty much every single Latin American ball player. So I think that's kind of ridiculous. Plus add like an updated celebration animation. I think that's kind of ridiculous that they have not updated that at all, probably in 8 years. So don't go the Madden route and just care about Diamond Dynasty. That's why I haven't bought it in about 2 years. So take the advice. It's rare to take EA's advice. I'm not a very big EA fan, but yeah. That being said, MLB The Show, 3 cover athletes, 3 young faces, 3 young stars. Can't wait to see how that game turns out because I might buy it. I might not. We'll see. Ryan Pressly to the Chicago Cubs, who we'll be talking about later in this program for Juan Bello. Ryan Pressly waived his no trade clause earlier this week, and the Cubs build on that bullpen. We've talked about the Cubs' issues with pitching. That's a concern that I've had with them recently, and hopefully this makes it better. So, yeah, we'll be talking more about the Cubs here in a few moments. Carlos Estevez, a guy who I have been huge on for quite a while. I talked about him in the very, very early episodes of this show, how I thought he would really help out the Phillies, and I just don't think they utilized him correctly. That guy was electric. when he was with the Angels, and he was really good with the Phillies. He was just put in a bad situation. But I think now that he's with the Kansas City Royals on a $13.5 million deal, that is one of the better deals that these Royals have made this offseason. That 2-year deal, $13.5 million, great to lock down a reliever. It is a low risk, high reward signing. So I love Carlos Estevez to the Royals. Aaron Schneider's Royals. Make sure to tune to the Gridiron Address. I've been there pretty much every week. We're doing mock drafts right now. This man's making me do homework. What the heck, man? I got to go to work all the time. I'm already done with school. Now I got to do homework for your show. Come on, Aaron. What are you doing to me, man? And yeah, Carlos Estevez, the Royals. Love it. Ha-Seong Kim, another guy that I really love, to Tampa, 2 years and $29 million. I absolutely love that too. Versatile infielder, can play the middle infield, can even go to third base. He filled in for Fernando Tatis Jr. when he was suspended for PEDs for the entire, I think it was entire year. Yeah, he got an entire year suspension, I'm pretty sure. Filled in my opinion, was much better defensively. I still think that Fernando Tatis Jr. is, when he was still a shortstop, there's a reason they moved him to the outfield and he got the Gold Glove. Fernando Tatis Jr. was the worst defensive shortstop in Major League Baseball when he was there. I'm not very big on him personally because I'm not very big on steroid guys, but this isn't about Tatis Jr. This is about Ha-Seong Kim. I'm happy that he signed with Tampa. I think it is finally seeing them spend some money replacing another middle infielder that won't be named because we don't talk about that guy in Tampa with all the stadium situation, all that uncertainty, and it's getting worse by the day. I think that it's good to go bring in a guy like him, a cornerstone guy who's been under a really good manager like Bob Melvin, and with a franchise that's kind of started to find a direction recently. I think he can bring something into a Tampa situation that's really in flight or fight mode. So moving on to a former AL East guy, Austin Hayes signs with the Cincinnati Reds on a $5 million deal for 1 year. The former Oriole and Philly, down year in 2024, we maintained a positive WAR outside of that since 2019. He's been a consistent 200s hitter. I love to see it. I think Austin Hayes, a veteran, can go and add some veteran. I mean, he's not really a veteran. I think his rookie year was 2019, 2018, something like that. He's been good. He's been, I won't say fantastic, but he's been good. And I think that he can add to that really young Reds team with guys like Ellie, we talked about before, Spencer Steer, etc. Tommy Canal, former New York Yankee, pitched in that World Series between Dodgers and the Yankees, signs with Detroit on a 1 year, $7.75 million deal, improving the Tigers bullpen after that NLDS run, which I still think that the Tigers are boom or bust. They could either repeat it or they could just completely kaput. No in between. I think it's a good thing to do it. Build the bullpen. Like I talked about before, you're basically having Skubal and then keep adding pitching. That's what we talked about in the AL Central breakdown, which I can't believe we're on the NL Central breakdown. Jeez, we only have 2 more breakdowns. I got to figure what we're going to do. Again, please drop it in the comments. Anyways, going back to Austin Hayes' former team, they signed Dylan Carlson to a 1 year, $9.75 million contract. Or no, $975,000 contract. Excuse me. I was about to say Dylan Carlson. Yeah, I forgot to put a period there on me. Editor's error. But yeah, Dylan Carlson, the former St. Louis Cardinal, goes from one bird team to the next. And again, consistent guy. Not exactly the best, not exactly the worst. We've talked about the Orioles. I think that they're kind of fight or flight as well at this point. They've kind of been really, really quiet. Time to give up some of those prospects, especially when it comes to pitching. But, just because you own the Magna Carta doesn't mean you have money. I don't know. Anyways, Rangers sign veteran Jesse Chavez to a 1 year, $740,000 contract. The 41-year-old has played for 9 teams, including the Braves, where he won a World Series, the Oakland A's, Pittsburgh Pirates, California, Anaheim, Los Angeles of something, Anaheim something, Angels, and of course, Los Angeles Dodgers for 1 year, which I was looking as baseball reference when I was writing this, and I was like, oh yeah, remember that. Adam Frazier is back in the Berg. Speaking of a Pirate, this guy, really good batting average for a while, but he has just fallen off. He's on a 1 year, $1.5 million contract. I've seen a lot of Pirates mad about this too. A lot of Pirates fans mad about this too, just thinking this is so useless. Like, and he's not really been productive necessarily, but I mean, they're kind of viewing it as a waste of roster space. The Pirates don't really necessarily spend a lot of money. I don't think $1.5 million is necessarily a lot of money for Adam Frazier, but I don't know. Give me your opinion. But yeah, we got some other notable signings. Jurickson Profar, the former A, signs with the Braves. The Mets sign AJ Minter, a guy who was pretty darn solid on that 2021 Braves World Series team. White Sox sign Omar Narvaez. Red Sox sign Abraham Toro, who was once part of a really big deal between Seattle and Houston, which ruffled a lot of feathers back in the day. The Cubs signed John Birdie, Wade Miley to the Cincinnati Reds, and finally the Mets re-sign Ryan Stanek, a guy who understandably got into a pretty big argument with an umpire in a playoff game. If you know, you know. Anyway, so I've been waiting for this, and you guys probably wonder why I didn't do this on the last show. There's a reason why I waited. It's because we're breaking down the NL Central today, and I decided that I wanted to wait until we do this because I kind of knew the way the schedule was going to go. Bob Uecker, a guy who I really, really liked as a kid because I was shown Major League, the movie as a kid, as you would expect. Bob Uecker passed away on January 16th at the age of 90. He was a baseball legend. Uecker began his career in 1971. After he retired from baseball, he was famous for his witty remarks and jokes about his MLB career, which, by the way, he wasn't that bad necessarily. He'd always go on Johnny Carson and just make fun of himself and make all these jokes. I recommend going on YouTube. I can't really recreate it. I'm not a comedian. I'm not Bob Uecker. I can't say it myself. So I recommend going on YouTube and just searching best of Bob Uecker, Johnny Carson, something like that. He would build a long career in baseball and film, starring in Major League. I always found him just really funny and thought that the fact that he still announced at an elite level into his 90s was amazing. He will never be forgotten. He announced up until this past year. And I knew that because sometimes it'd be blackouts or whatever, and it would be the radio broadcast. And honestly, if it was between the Apple TV game, listening to the radio broadcast I would listen to Bob Uecker's radio broadcast. I mean, just because of how witty he was and how great he was. And, man, listening to that because he announced the last out of when they lost in game 3 to the Mets. And, he just seemed so disappointed. But the only, I guess, silver lining we can come from this is the Brewers do look pretty good. And we're going to talk about him here in a moment. But Bob Uecker did more for the game because he added personality. There are so many announcers, and I mean, he's a radio commentator, but still it's very similar, who are really, really good. Joe Davis is fantastic, but they lack just that, I don't know, unhingedness, I guess is the best way to put it. Bob Uecker is very unhinged. If you ever seen the movie Major League, you get it. Harry Doyle, but rest in peace, Bob Uecker. Hats off to him. And again, I waited a little bit because I wanted to talk about the Brewers in the same program, and we were really close to it. So we're going to go and we're going to talk about the Brewers here. So what we have, they have a lot. They really do. Christian Yelich, Jackson Chirino has been fantastic, which, by the way, he was born, I think, 2002. Bob Uecker was 90, and he announced a home run for him, which is just insane to think about. Because thinking about the people that Bob Uecker saw play when he played versus Chirino, who's younger than probably most people watching this video. So he's been great, and he's going to continue to be good. Rhys Hoskins, great, just strikes out a little bit too much. Freddie Peralta, a guy who was a little bit disappointing this year. I had him on my fantasy team. Brandon Woodruff, if he can stay healthy. Aaron Savalier, too. I liked that they got him from Tampa. Nestor Cortez, another guy. I love his swag, love his personality, love the socks, the leg kick, all that. I love that the Brewers got him. I think it was a good idea. And then Wilson Contreras, plus a fantastic manager in Pat Murphy, as we know in Dugout Debrief. We love Pat Murphy. We are a big Pat Murphy stand on this show. And what they need is bullpen. It's really rough. Like, what have they got? DJ Hall. No more Devin Williams. He's on the Yankees now. He was part of that. He got traded for Nestor Cortez. I wouldn't mind going for David Robertson, excuse me, Daniel Bard, and Joe Kelly's still on the board too. Don't forget. And Joe Kelly, I mean, he's a little bit inconsistent, but if you can work with him, you can get something out of him. So I really think that Pat Murphy and the gang need to be going after a bullpen because it is rough out there right now, especially when you lose arguably a top 3 closer in baseball. Their 2024, it was a good season, but a bad ending, as we talked about earlier, falling to the Mets in 3. A lot was left to be desired. They did outperform their former their former manager's team, the Chicago Cubs. What are we talking about? I think they're very similar to the Rays. Is there's a lot to when they lose, they gain. And it's funny because every year they've lost something. Last year they lost Craig Counsell, and it ended up okay for them. This year they lose Devin Williams. I think it still ends up okay with them. I think that they find a way. I'm gonna go, and I think it could be a lot of things for 2025. If they go at this pace, it's fantastic. They have the 17th ranked farm system. They develop relatively well. My prediction is 95 and 67, first or second place. It's a toss up. Probably either division winner or wild card. And yeah, I mean, with Milwaukee, they really exceed expectations. It's just the market's really small and the National League is really strong in the sense that you have the Phillies, you now have the Mets who are really, really making a move. You have the Dodgers, and you can't forget about the Padres. And you also have the Cubs in your own division. And I think that you kind of have an easier pass because you are in a weaker division, but you need to make something out of that. You have some teams who are building, and we don't really trash teams unless they're really, really bad on this show. But you have teams like the Reds that are kind of just building. You have teams like the Cardinals that just kind of tread water and don't really do much else. They're just satisfied with the Cardinal way. So you have an opportunity there. But once you get to the playoffs, you have to make something out of it. And I think that's the big make or break. But we're moving on to probably the biggest make or break team that's not some huge market team in the National League. And we're moving on to those Chicago Cubs. They have a lot, but the pitching rotation will get there. Kyle Tucker just moved over there. PCA is still there. He's struggled with strikeouts. He's struggled with power. He's struggled, but again, it's PCA. Highly ranked prospect. Cubs have been with development. We'll see. They need to work on him. Dansby Swanson. We love Dansby Swanson. Imanaga and Steele, that 1-2 punch. Sasaya Suzuki, Ian Happ, who's getting up there, but still staying consistent. But like I said, with the pitching, that's the big thing that I'm concerned about. After Steele and Imanaga, what else do you have? Jameson Taillon, Matthew Boyd, Javier Assad, those guys are not going to be winning you playoff games. Those guys are not going to be making it to the NLCS. Those guys are not going to make it past rotations like the Los Angeles Dodgers, like the San Diego Padres, like the Philadelphia Phillies, like the New York Mets. Any of them. You are not. You have two incredible pitchers who don't have much playoff experience in the MLB, and then not great at all. Their 2024 was very disappointing in Craig Counsell's first year on the north side at 83 and 79. I think that they improve, but it could be really bad as well. I mean, they're a very boomer bust team. Their 2025, they absolutely need to win the division or at least make a wild card and win a round. I think it's one or the other. If you win the division, go one and done, at least you look better. If you make the wild card, then get swept, pretty much just as bad as missing the playoffs if you get that last seed. The new manager, all the contracts, all the money, they're finally spending money. And here's the thing, guys, 2016 is getting longer and longer ago. Before you know it, that's going to be 10 years ago that they broke the curse of the Billy Goat. I don't know, man. I really don't know. They need to at least make the playoffs. I mean, because that clock is going and going, and they are more and more descending back into just being a more mediocre to worse Minnesota Twins team, or dangerously an Angels. But we don't slander them that much. We like the Angels. My prediction, let's say 90 wins. I'm going to give it to them. I think that they can build that bullpen. They signed a few guys, and they can extend out innings, extend out games. Offense is still great. Lower end of the rotation's bad. Get one more guy. There's a lot of guys you could go for. Just get one more guy and you'll be all right. I'm going to say about 90 wins. It's a toss-up between the Brewers and them, but I'm going to go and I'm going to say that they'll go 91 and 71. I think both teams make the playoffs. I think the Brewers win the division. I think Pat Murphy and the boys win the division. We love them. We're rooting for the Brewers. We're doing it for Bob Uecker too this year. So give me the Brewers winning the NL Central. That being said, we're going to our trivia question of the week. So last week, name 3 players of the first MLB Hall of Fame ballot ever. We did that in honor of the Hall of Fame ballot being last week. So the first class was Ty Cobb, Walter Johnson, who, by the way, was probably the first pitcher ever to throw 100 miles an hour, but that was before radar guns existed. Christy Mathewson, Babe Ruth, and Honus Wagner, Pittsburgh Pirate. But yeah, that's the first Hall of Fame class, and we love the Hall of Fame class. We did a breakdown of that. With that being said, this week, what is the only team to have all numbers 1 through 10 retired? Only team to have all numbers 1 through 10 retired. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our NL Central breakdown. Next up is the NL West. I will be saving Los Angeles Dodgers for the final episode in this series. We will be continuing. I'm not really sure what, to be honest with you. We might be diving in a little bit of college baseball. We might be just doing deeper dives. I'm going to be going. I want suggestions from you guys because you guys are the viewers. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show. Make sure to tune to the Gridiron Address. We're still powering through. We'll be doing Super Bowl breakdowns. We'll be doing mock drafts out of pocket as well. We got a lot of time before the Super Bowl. We're going to be covering that Super Bowl a lot. Head coaching decisions. So much is going on in the world of the NFL as we lead up to the Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs playing in the Super Bowl. Make sure to tune in to Quick Hits. Make sure to tune in to 3 from Deep with Jason. With that being said, guys, I'm going to get off here. I want to thank you for tuning in to Dugout Debrief, and I will see you next week as we'll break down that NL West.